Welcome everyone. I am Dr. Jackie, the founder of 50 Shades of Pink Foundation, and today we are starting a series called Women Owning Our Wellness. So welcome. Today's guest, oh my gosh, she is a force to be reckoned with. You're gonna learn a lot. You're gonna leave here going, wow. So I wanna introduce to you Tamika Felder. Hey Tamika, how are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right, well, let's get started because we got a lot to talk about.
Yes, we do.
So, Tamika, I
Yes.
had the opportunity of looking at I Am Survivor on Instagram, and it looks like yesterday that the Cervical Cancer Summit you had was awesome.
It was so just life changing, wonderful, awesome. It was a good time. We cried a lot. I cried a lot, but that's what healing and overcoming and being a survivor is all about. It was beautiful. We got to get you there one day.
Well, I would love to come. Well, if anybody knows when you see this, I'm sure the storm will be over, but we
Yeah.
are expecting a horrible storm, and I couldn't get to DC, and I've got a whole bunch of stuff, but I will definitely make it. So I'm going to
Yes.
jump right in. I got a lot of questions, but I want this to be just open and honest because I think when we're transparent and we're honest and not scripted, people get healed. And
Absolutely.
that's exactly what we want. Now, I'm an OBGYN. I'm a breast cancer survivor times two, so I totally understand everything that you probably have been through, but not all of it. So I want to hear a little bit about it because this series is Women Owning Our Wellness.
Yes.
And so I just want to start with your story because I asked Tamika not to tell me the story because I wanted you guys to feel it like I'm going to feel it and just be authentic with it. So tell us your story and how you got to where you are today.
So, Dr. Jackie, when I was 25, way back in 2001,
Wait a
I was
minute, 25?
25 years old. 25 years old.
And so let me tell y'all something. To have been diagnosed with cervical cancer at that age is unusual to begin with. And two, trying to get my 25-year-olds to come in for their appointments will be a whole nother story. So talk
That
to
that's
us.
that's the important part of the story, what you
Yes.
just said. So when I was 25, I was working as a television producer, running around DC, chasing newsmakers, and life was good. Fresh, off the truck from South Carolina, living in the city. You couldn't tell me nothing, Dr. Jackie.
Nothing.
And, like, I had a boil that happened under my arm that had nothing to do with my cancer, but it's the thing that got me to an emergency room because it was causing me some problems. And the doctor said, "When was your last physical?" Now, at 25, you think you're invincible. You think that, you don't, I don't even think I ever registered preventative healthcare screenings. Of course, now, 2 decades later, I know about preventative healthcare screenings. But at 25, I wasn't a dummy. I was smart, but that was not something that was on my radar. So, doctor asked a simple question: when was your last pap smear? When was your last this physical? I was like, ooh, I don't know. I was starting a new job that offered health benefits. That's the other thing. Working in broadcast TV, sometimes you have health benefits, sometimes you don't. I also didn't care because, again, I'm young, I'm healthy. What's going to happen to me, right?
Right.
But
And that's
cervical.
what so many 25-year-olds and older think.
Mhm.
That I'm 25, nothing's gonna happen to me. So you were running around taking care of everything else, and they had to send a boil. The last time in the Bible they sent boils, it wasn't a good thing, but this was a good thing.
Right. Right, right.
Yeah.
So I'm starting a new job. I go see this doctor, and I'm thinking, okay, she's gonna tell me to lose weight, which I know I need to do, still need to do, all this other stuff. And she did tell me those things. But she said, because I don't have your family history, which is another important fact. I
Yep.
went in, what I did know I shared, but there were no previous records from another doctor to transfer over. Because again, that wasn't the thinking. So she said, we're going to do everything from the rooter to the tutor. She was a doctor, she did everything. And I remember Dr. Jackie being so annoyed because she said, I want you to come back in 2 weeks so that we can go over your test results, which I thought was weird. Just if there's something wrong, call me. If you don't call me, I'll know there's nothing wrong. Well, I went back and she told me that, I had abnormal cells, which again, another foreign term to me. I didn't know what they were. She wanted me to follow up and see a specialist. I did. This doctor said to me, "Don't worry, we see this all the time." But I knew when I saw the nurse's face that there was something wrong. Eventually, I would be diagnosed with stage 2A cervical cancer, which led me to having the top third of my vagina removed. I had a radical hysterectomy. I had chemotherapy, radiation therapy. And the hardest thing for me was that I lost my fertility. Now, I was in no rush to become a mom, no rush at all. But I knew eventually that I would want to have a child. And even though I'm glad I didn't die, for me, losing my fertility felt honestly like death. And I didn't want to tell people about my coochie business and what happened to me, especially when I heard the words HPV, the human papillomavirus. I was like, what?
So y'all know this is gonna be a real conversation when we can say the word coochie. I'm feeling better now. Look, let me put. I need an ink pen because I need to take some notes so we can say the word coochie. Because I'm the coochie doctor. I wrote a book. We'll talk
And
about
I'll talk about coochie cancer
and coochie chondriacs. But you said a lot of stuff. Let's start with the fact that getting a pap smear. Now we recommend you get your first pap at age 21. I know that the recommendation is to get a pap every 3 to 5 years, and obviously HPV we don't do until the age of 30, which is crazy because you're telling me you were 25 years old.
And I know people diagnosed at 23. I know people diagnosed at 18. It may not be common, but it happens.
Right. And when it's you, it feels like it's real common, even though it doesn't happen very often.
Thank you for acknowledging that also.
Yes. But let's talk about a couple things. Tamika had a pap smear, and the pap really isn't about cancer. It's about catching those abnormal cells before it becomes cancer. When we do a pap smear, we're looking for a couple of things, y'all. We're looking for normal, first and foremost. We want it to be normal. Or it could be some atypical cells, meaning not normal, but not precancerous either. Or it could be, and we'll use the word precancerous or dysplasia is what we say in medicine. And you can have a low-grade dysplasia, you can have a high-grade dysplasia. And then obviously the next stage would be cancer, carcinoma in situ, or actually a stage of cancer. You actually had abnormal cells that they called you back in for, because if we tell the patient cancer over the phone, they might have a car wreck, they may not come back out of
Well, I know that now, but I didn't know that at the time.
Yes, so we bring you back in and they told you you had abnormal cells to later learn you had a stage 2A, which is definitely for a 25-year-old.
It was early, but what it was, it had already went into the vaginal canal and the tumor was touching on my bladder.
Wow.
Which they didn't know until they opened me up during surgery.
Wow. And if you guys don't know it, the cervix is kind of the mouth of the womb. It is there to keep the baby in place. I know a lot of folks might use their cervix for a lot of things, Tamika, but it really is there to hold.
We got to talk about it. We got to talk about it, Dr. Jackie.
It is there to hold your baby in. And so the cancer had left the cervix and it was actually coming down, right?
Yes.
It had started to, and the vagina, the cervix is right there in the vagina. And so if you had that, tell me next stages. You had chemo,
I had chemo and radiation. They did tell me, I had the radical hysterectomy first, and they said, had they known the tumor was where it was and how it was touching, I would have done treatment first, radiation and chemo.
Absolutely.
But again, it's neither here nor there. I trust my team. I'm here.
Right.
I'm still alive. I have minimal issues. I do have some things, but overall, Dr. Jackie, I'm doing well. So I have no complaints. But it was, I tell my story because technically it was an early cancer, but I also want to show with a preventable cancer what that early means.
Because this is probably one of the most preventable cancers in gynecology is cervical cancer.
Which is why I have to tell my coochie business. It's why I have to talk about it.
And so you were diagnosed at 25. What is your message today to women about going to the doctor first and foremost? And I like to say to the GYN. I know a lot of people use other doctors, and in some areas that's all they have. But going to the doctor and taking care of their preventive health.
We have to do it. I mean, getting a cervical cancer screening is not fun. It's not. It really isn't. You have to put your feet on the stirrups. I've heard from many OBGYNs, y'all don't care where we put our underwear. You don't care if our, toenail polish is chipped or whatever. We just have to do it. And that is my message to people, that you do not want to end up like I did, but worse, there are still people who die from a preventative cancer. In the US, it's a smaller number compared to, say, breast cancer, colon cancer, lung cancer. But because we have the tools and we know that there's a virus that causes almost all cervical cancers, that's HPV, which is extremely common.
And that's human papilloma virus, guys.
Papillomavirus.
Yeah, and there are different types of them.
Over 100.
Right. But we got 20 high-risk ones with 16, 18, 45. There are several others.
And the problem is, if you're not going to be screened, then they're not going to be caught. So my story could have been that I was being screened, because remember I said I was not going to the doctor.
At all. At all.
Right.
Well, stop right there. Why weren't you going to the doctor?
When I moved from South Carolina to DC for work, back then, you got off your parents' insurance, and the job that I got didn't include health benefits. And again, it wasn't a big deal for me. So I did get screened up until I moved to DC, right? And I think I got screened one more time, honestly, because, and I know this is other people too, I needed to refill some birth control pills.
Now, but that PAP was normal.
That PAP was normal.
What year was that? How old were you then?
I was 22.
Okay, 22. So point being, in 3 years, you went from having a normal pap smear, no HPV positive, no atypia, to having stage 2A cervical cancer.
This was also before the HPV test, which I wouldn't have received because at then 30. Also, we have better testing tools with different type of pap tests now. I'm not a doctor. I just,
Right.
So
old school, and nobody's listened. Well, the old school folks in my age group will remember. It was called a pap smear because we would do a pap test. We take the brush and we would smear it on a slide and we would spray it with almost like a hairspray.
And that's what I had.
Okay, they would stain it with these fancy little stains, and then the cytotechnologist or the pathologist would read it. Now today we have these little liquid paps, and we actually put the cells into the liquid pap, and it goes to the pathologist, and I think they have fancy technology to help them read it, so it's better testing.
It is. It is. And so that's why it's so important to get screened. Now, on top of screening, unlike other cancers, we also have a vaccine, the HPV vaccine, that can prevent the virus that causes not only cervical cancer, but several other cancers that I know people don't want to talk about, but I'm going to say them: vaginal, vulva, anal, oropharyngeal.
Oral. Talk about oral, because I know folks think that it's okay to do what they do.
That's the other thing too. People think, well, I'm not having penetrative sex, so I'm at risk.
Look, I put my glasses on for that one now, Tamika. You got to tell the whole story. We don't want people to miss any of it. So,
and again, I remember when my mother was alive, she was like, girl, don't talk about this stuff. You're going to embarrass yourself. But before she died, she told me, God is going to bless you for doing this. You are helping people. And so I'm just trying to help somebody, Dr. Jackie. I ain't trying to put nobody business out there. I'm not trying to put stigma out there, because I believe that if we keep stigma surrounding around HPV and cervical cancer, that people will continue to die. One of the things that I started to say earlier is that, in the U.S., we have around 13,000 people, right? But if you look at people who have abnormal pap smears, it's in the millions, right? But people don't follow up. People that look like us, the follow-up is terrible. And I am talking about myself too. You heard me say I wasn't going to get screened. The other thing too, when they finally told me, Dr. Jackie, I had cancer, I didn't believe those people.
Really?
I said, my dad died of colon cancer the day before my 17th birthday. I know what somebody who has cancer looks like. I've had all kinds of cancer in my family. I don't look like someone who has cancer. But that's the thing about cervical cancer and some cancers, they whisper. They whisper. You may not get that big thing that tells you. Now, sometimes you will, if you have, bleeding during or after sex, different things that you might have. But this is why you have to go in and get screened and take control of your health and be proactive about it.
Because cervical cancer is probably one of the most asymptomatic cancers
Mm-hmm,
that we
mm-hmm,
have.
mm-hmm.
Like, there are no real symptoms. And once you start having symptoms, we can already say it's probably advanced.
Well, I mean, like I told my girlfriends. Now, I wouldn't be not going to the doctor, and if my coochie was on fire and different things like that,
Or you
bleeding
felt a lump, or you felt a
or I
bump.
felt a or
Yes.
whatever. Now, I love electronic technology. The one great thing about the pandemic, I love going in the portal, sending my doctor a message.
So
Because now
let's
it's
talk
not
about
that.
that though. We
Yeah.
we see it where we actually do pap smears, and we've given the responsibility of owning your own results, because this is about owning our wellness, with the portal, and people don't check the portal. Now, we do call you if there is an abnormality, but a lot of times the lab core results will, or whomever you're using, will hit the portal before we even see it, and
But I
people
think
never
it's going to
see it.
shift. I do think the more that we have conversations like this and talk about it, I think we're going to see that shift. I think we have to normalize things. With breast cancer, it wasn't normal to talk about breast cancer. Now we have people who are holding us accountable and making sure that we're getting our mammograms. We also have to have somebody said to me, like, we need pat pals. I was like, what?
Right.
But it's like we need people to hold us accountable outside of just our doctor, if we have a doctor, to say, did you get screened for cervical cancer? Are you going in? And we also know when someone goes in to get screened for cervical cancer, they get screened for other things too. So you're absolutely right. We have work to do, and it's why we have to have open and honest conversations like this.
Right. So, what would you say to a 25-year-old right now, though? If you were looking at a 20, let's say 21-year-old, and let's back up. The one way we know we get HPV is through what?
Sexual intercourse.
There you go.
Sexual intercourse. And listen, I'm gonna say this too. Whatever sexual intercourse looks like to you, whoever you having it with or whatever, it is skin to skin contact. So if you don't think, if you're not having penetrative sex from the anal or vaginal, I know as a
Or
Southern girl, I'm not
oral.
supposed to speak the thing, but oral too, we have to be screened. We
Yes.
have to be screened. We
Yes.
have to be screened. For the people who are young, 25 or less, when I was diagnosed, we didn't have the Affordable Health Care Act where kids could stay, young adults could stay on their parents' insurance. Now that is a possibility. You can do that through, the Affordable Health Care Act by President Obama. So that's a wonderful thing. We also have to make sure that people are aware that there are the National Breast and Cervical Cancer, Treatment Acts, that there are a lot of nonprofits and different associations out there. So if you are not insured or underinsured, there's a way for you still to get screened. My organization held a screen and treat in New York and Louisiana and Cleveland. We're going to hold them in other places. They are people who do those types of things. So there's always a way for people to get screened. And if you don't know, contact us directly. You can always contact us and we'll help find a resource.
And before we move on, the other thing I want to say is find a doctor that you trust.
Super, super, super important. Not only just for cervical cancer, but for your whole wellness. You have to speak up. You have to feel good about it. And if you don't feel good, you don't feel seen, you don't feel heard, you got to change doctors.
Okay, so let me be the doctor for a second. Developing trust, though, is two ways.
Absolutely.
We need to, I try to go in the room and break the ice and start with, and my opening line is, welcome to the 25 and over club, girl. Or for me now, I'm saying a lot, welcome to the 50 and over club. So we definitely try to develop a relationship with you, but owning your own wellness means you're doing your part too. You're coming to your visits, you're coming to your follow-ups, you're doing what we ask you to do, or helping us understand why you cannot do what you are asked to do. So develop a relationship with the doctor involves you having because most patients come in, I'm gonna tell you what they're doing right now. I'm talking to them and this is what they're still doing. So I don't feel like you're into your own health. So it's a little hard for me as the doctor to create a relationship with you.
We have a responsibility too. Like you said, it's a shared relationship. One of the things that you touched on that I think is also important, we don't prepare young girls enough for their first time going in and seeing an OBGYN. I think that we're afraid, especially in this country, to talk about sex. That's number one. But we also need to make sure that we're educating people about their bodies, about their menstrual cycles, and having that very first. So for my bonus baby, my son's daughter, it was a hard conversation for me, but I'm like, if I'm having these conversations all over the world with people, I got to have this conversation with my baby too. And she
Absolutely.
was like, I'm glad because I gave her the period book when, she got her period because I helped raise her. But literally having that conversation with her about going to the OBGYN, was it uncomfortable? Yes, it was uncomfortable, but it was a necessary conversation. And I just think that we need to do a better job preparing our young people for those first visits.
So, as a survivor and a founder of a nonprofit, how did you shift from fighting for your life to building a life and a movement rooted in purpose, boundaries, and long term wellness? We want to hear about it because you've taken your pain and created a purpose. And you've definitely allowed the struggles to give you strength to make sure that you reach back and help other people. Can you tell us more about?
I can. I got pissed off. I kept hearing that we see this all the time. And I thought, I worked at BET on one of their top health shows. We never talked about this. Where I worked at other news stations, we never talked about this. My friends weren't talking about it. So I'm like, why are people telling me we see this all the time, but I don't hear people talking about it, right? And so I got pissed off and I did something about it. But also, Dr. Jackie, on your show, one day you said something, and I'm telling you, I was in a puddle of tears in my feelings. You talked about how when you started your organization and the 50 Shades and all the work you do is because you didn't have a child to fulfill that part of your life. So you poured everything into it. And it was like through you, I had this aha moment that the work that I did with Survivor was because Survivor was my baby. I poured everything and gave everything to my child. And what happened in the midst of all of that is that even though I physically healed from my cancer, putting the work into this organization helped me emotionally heal from the damage of cervical cancer and losing my fertility. But what I want people to know is that life comes at us hard with good things and bad things and all the things in between, and it's the way that we handle them. And we don't have to handle them overnight, but it's okay to fall down, but you have to dust yourself up and get up some way. And it's okay to speak about things that normally would not be talked about, because if I did not talk about this, I don't know where I would be right now.
Well, we need you to talk about it because, again, women don't take that pap test as serious as it should. And so, and then most 21, 25-year-olds think it's not going to be me.
Exactly.
They just don't. And we talk a lot about protection and the importance of protection, but some of our young women are in monogamous relationships and they forget that HPV could have been acquired the very first time your partner had sex with an older girl when he was 13.
That virus can lay dormant for a decade.
Years. Years. And so it is important that you keep doing the work you're doing, because I don't think we talk enough about cervical cancer, because you're right, we don't hear about it enough.
Well, I'm trying to make sure everybody talks about it, they hear it, and we not only talk about it in silos, that we take action and we do something. So, for me, it's not about taking it, it's making sure that it's action. So like right now, it's January, it's Cervical Cancer, Awareness Month. And we want people to take action. So if you haven't scheduled your screening yet, this is a new year. It's a great time to go ahead and schedule not only your cervical cancer screenings, but anything else that you may be behind on.
Get your mammogram. Well, look, let's go Rudy to the Tootie. Everybody needs a therapist. So mental health is so important. So make sure if you are not seeing a therapist, because you can do it online now, just like we're having this conversation, mental health is important. Heart health, the leading cause of death in women, especially Black women, is heart disease. So make sure you're seeing your primary care or cardiologist if you already have hypertension. Definitely gut health is super important. We both know Melody, and we know how important gut health. We believe all disease processes start in the gut. So make sure you're seeing your primary care doctor. And then y'all know we're going to talk about the vagina. Make sure you're going to your primary care or GYN. I prefer you go to your GYN and you're getting examined, because just like you can have cervical cancer, we have vaginal cancer, vulvar cancer, ovarian cancer, uterine cancer. There are so many cancers that can happen below your belly button that it's important that you're going. So how do we tell women to reclaim their wellness? Like what would be one way of saying you need to restart? So if you're not doing it, don't feel bad about it, but start reclaiming your ownership of your own wellness.
My mother, who was much healthier than I was, she used to tell me this thing all the time. And I think now at age 50, I truly, truly get it. We get this one life, right? We don't get do-overs. And if we do, we don't know how we're coming back, what it's going to look like. But this is it. This is what we get. And so it matters what we do with it. And that means taking care of this. And you can look at me. I'm not, a skinny person. I'm always trying to be a better version of myself. So it's taking care of the things, having hard conversations, going to see the doctor, even when you're afraid of what they will find in the answer. You just talked about going and see a cardiologist. That's something that I have scheduled coming up next month. And am I a little terrified of what I might find out? Yes. But you know what's worse? Not knowing and then something happening.
Absolutely.
So I still have work to do in this life, and I need to be here. And so that is what it means to me, having the hard conversations, but taking care of this vessel that we have one shot at having.
Because preventive health is about preventing if we can, but catching it early is really important.
Exactly.
Some things you can't stop from happening.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know if there's anything I could have done not to have breast cancer once but twice. But if we can catch it early detection is your best protection.
Absolutely.
And then access to care. You made a point earlier to talk about, since we have the Affordable Care Act, or like we call it Obamacare, you can get an exam. You don't have to have insurance to get this exam, but there are ways to get it. Could you tell everybody a little bit more about how they can get access to care if they don't have coverage?
Yeah, so in a lot of states, there is the National Breast and Act that every state and U.S. territory has. And you can go on the cdc.gov website or different places to look and see what they have for yours. But there are also organizations that offer free screenings, whether it's for Latinas, whether it's for people in low income, whether it's just for people who they have insurance, but they're underinsured, meaning they don't have the best coverage. But there are resources out there. And one of the things that we're working on through a bunch of different people are having it housed in one simple location that everybody can find. Because some of these government websites, they aren't perfect, they aren't user friendly. And so that's why we say if you need to reach out to us going to our website, Survivor, CERVIVOR.org, you can do that and we can help you navigate that. But there are resources out there. Unfortunately, sometimes it's a little difficult to find them.
And say that website once again.
CERVIVOR, survivor.org.
And an easy way to remember that, guys, just remember the words cervix and survivor. And so, yes, they're all kind of pushed in together. Now, I'm not going to hold you much longer, but we just want to make sure you know that it is important to go to the doctor. It's the beginning of the year. It's a good month to just hit the reset button. If you've been eating bad, don't go to your doctor. Find somebody that you trust. And part of that relationship is being able to communicate. Like, we have to pull out sometimes, and that's why we take a history from the patient, because women will say they're not believed, but sometimes it's just a lack of communication. Right. And we want to definitely make sure that you feel like we care and we're taking good care of you. But make sure you go in. I got my whole little girl right here. This is your cervix, lady. So when we put you up in the stirrups and we have you to open wide, insert a speculum, we use 2 or 3 brushes to obtain cervical cells and send it off. Go get your exam. Make sure you're doing the follow-up, and make sure that you are talking to somebody if there's something that does not feel right. Tell us something else that you want us to know about survivorship. Tell me again, I am survivor. Tell us
So
how we
on
can find
Instagram,
you. Mm-hmm.
they can go on Instagram. I am a survivor. I am Cervivor. Also, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on X, we're on TikTok, we're on all the places. On TikTok, where we are Survivor. What I want people to know is that, it is better to find out, as we said earlier, than when things are too late and it's worse, because unfortunately people do die of this preventable disease. But I also want people to know that you can get some cells removed and be okay and not lose your fertility. I'm going to leave you with something really good. One of the members in my community, she thought it was awful that I didn't get to preserve my fertility. She thought it was terrible that I didn't get to become a mom. Her words, I've been a mom to so many people in our community. She and her husband became parents using their embryos and a surrogate. She donated her unused embryos to me and my husband, and you never know how God is going to work it out for you. So even at a late age, in my late 40s, I became a mom via a donated embryo and a surrogate. And you can't tell me that that little boy that drives me crazy, but I love so much, is not my child. He is my child, and that is my blessing. And that's how cervical cancer didn't win over me.
Absolutely. And you made a good point. I know we were closing, but let me go backwards. No matter what happens, there's some way, somehow we can find a way around it. So becoming an intended parent, we like to use it,
Yes.
because I have the whole surrogacy miracles and consultant. You became an intended parent, you used an embryo, dad's sperms, donated egg, and it is yours. Like once you take them home, they become
No, it's
yours.
donated sperm, donated,
Oh,
everything's donated because
okay.
it was their embryos that they didn't use.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you can use surrogacy as an answer to give you and get what you want out of it. So
Yeah.
that it's never no. It's definitely never not no. But what we want you to know is own your own wellness.
Yes.
And that is you doing your part. Yes, the physicians should do their part, but go to the doctor, talk to the doctor, do your follow up, take good care of yourself from your Rudy to your Tootie. Good.
Absolutely.
So, anything else you want to leave us with, Tamika? Because it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's enlightening to hear somebody say cervical cancer is out there, it's real, it's preventable. You just need to go to the doctor. The good point you make, though, is it happens so young.
Yeah.
It happens so young, so it's real. And then for Black women, I believe the stats say we die twice more
We do. We
than
do.
any other woman. And
And
it's
why I mentioned follow up, because our follow up is terrible. I think it's like less. I don't even remember the percentage, but we have to do better with our follow up once we get the news, right? So that we
yes,
take action. And so that's really what I want to leave people with. When they hear this conversation, I want them to take action. I want them to leave comments, but I want them to share it. Not because we want likes and numbers and all this other stuff, because I want to save some coochies, right? I
absolutely.
want people to tell us if you're taking action. Did you schedule your appointment? Did you tell somebody else? So tell us how you're using this information.
Absolutely. And not to leave women in fear. If cervical cancer is found early enough, you do not necessarily have to lose your uterus and your cervix.
Absolutely.
We have other procedures, elite, and that's kind of I like to describe it as this electric ice cream scoop that kind of
Yes.
goes in and
Yes.
shaves away
Yeah.
width and depth of the cervix. So you do not have to lose your fertility, but you do have
Absolutely.
to go to the doctor, and we do need to find it early enough so that we can do other tests. And then testing. When you say follow up to care, you can't have one pap, it's abnormal, and never see us again
Right.
for 2 or 3 years.
Right. Right.
Definitely make sure you should be calling your doctor like, okay, my 6 month, it was time for me to come
Exactly.
in. So good. But Tamika, this has been enlightening. Hopefully a lot of women will hear something and see something that will make them understand and men, let's
Yes.
hold the men accountable. Tell your girlfriend, your wife, your sister, your aunt, your cousin, Pookie them, other men, that
Yeah.
it is important to go to the doctor and have your wellness checked, which includes a pap smear. And the pap smear is easy. We got my little cervix here. It is simple. Put your feet in the stirrups and then slide your butt over the edge of the table so we can get the speculum in and get your pap smear done. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It's important that women are going to the doctor. It's important that you're sharing your story. It's brave, and we thank you so much. And what we have in common is we both have had gynecological cancers. We both had infertility from it, but we're still here spreading the news.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Jackie. God bless you. Keep doing this work.
All right, get some rest.
All right.
Bye-bye.